You won't believe what this man was caught doing with a corpse. 46-year-old Randall Bird was caught doing inappropriate things to a corpse while he was working his shift as a security guard at the Banner University Medical Center in Phoenix. Randall's job was to bring deceased bodies to the hospital's morgue and slip them into the freezer. But during his shift, coworkers walked in on him and caught Randall inside the freezer with his zipper down, his uniform looking messy, and a body bag open. He was seen almost on top of the 79-year-old deceased woman, and when the workers walked in, he quickly tried to cover the body. The workers said that Randall looked so sweaty and nervous when they caught him, and his excuse was that he had a medical emergency and he almost passed out. His co-workers did not believe a single word and reported the incident. When Randall was interviewed by police a few days later, he basically just said the same story and said that he couldn't remember much of what happened. But not long after, investigators found his DNA on the woman's body, which proves that Randall was in fact doing what we all assumed. He was arrested and now faces multiple charges.
These are serial killers explaining why they kill.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. No comments. I cannot answer it at this time.
And that's why you killed them.
Right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
you killed 7 men.
Yes, you
And
did.
I'm asking you, what got you to kill the 7
And I'm
men?
telling you because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you
But
get it?
Not every
Disgusting facts you didn't know about. The McDonald's McRib is a restructured meat product made from pig innards, tripe, heart, and scalded stomach. McDonald's strawberry milkshakes aren't 100% strawberry. It contains up to 50 chemicals, which is more than a conventional fertilizer. The cheese at fast food chains is loaded with so many artificial chemicals, flavors, and preservatives that it is barely even cheese.
These are people with real-life superpowers, Part 2. Daniel Kish lost his eyesight from retinoblastoma before he even turned 1. But he didn't give up, and developed a form of echolocation to help him navigate his surroundings, making him the real-life Daredevil. His bat-like technique where he uses clicking sounds has also earned him the name the real-life Batman. He trained his brain to differentiate the difference in echoes created by his clicks, allowing him to move around even in crowds. This family in Connecticut has unbreakable bones. The unnamed family has been found to have extremely dense bones, which means they've never had any fractures. When scientists tested out 20 different people from the same family, they found around half of them had extremely dense bones. Scientists think that by studying this family, we can treat many more bone-related issues. And back in 1972, Veronica Sider claimed to see objects that were a mile away. When no one believed her, she was tested. And turns out, she was not able to just see things that far. She could also differentiate between colors, shapes, distance, and position. She was then put in the Guinness World Records as her vision is 20 times more powerful than any other normal human being.
This man was playing with his son, but suddenly... This thing is a suspected skinwalker. Skinwalkers are a kind of demon. Well, most of the time, the skinwalker takes the form of an animal, as in this video. Here, he's taken the form of a dog.
No.
Let me see. I'll know if she's my dog. Merlin, sit. Turn around. Turn around. Lay down. You're not my dog.
Fortunately, this woman knows her dog well, and didn't make the mistake. So you're probably wondering where these things come from. They come from Navajo culture, and are malevolent spirits that can metamorphose, take over, or take on the appearance of an animal or a person in order to deceive and manipulate us. Like here, for example. In this video, we see a skinwalker who has taken on the form of a man.
Oh, hey neighbor. Is it hot in here, or is it just a little cooler?
Most of the time they hang around at night and near places where there are forests, and their presence is very often accompanied by a blood-curdling scream. Like this one, for example. And so fun fact, not fun at all. In fact, skinwalkers are basically wizards who've killed their loved ones. Subscribe and tell me things I should make a video about.
Are you ready to have your heart broken? This is 22-year-old Itiana Spruill from New Jersey. She got a year in jail. She got a year in jail because her 6-year-old son killed her 4-year-old son with a gunshot wound to the head. You see, the 6-year-old had been playing with mommy's gun at about 11 a.m. on a Saturday, and he decided to put the gun to his 4-year-old brother's head and pull the trigger. And the mother was charged with a weapons violation. She went to trial and was given a year in jail for her charges. But the everlasting trauma of knowing that your child that you love with all your heart, that you let play with a gun, murdered your other child that you love with all your heart, that you let play with your other child who had a gun all alone, is just so heartbreaking. Don't you agree?
Hi, can someone explain to me why this man is not in jail? This is the owner of Return to Nature Funeral Home in Colorado Springs, Colorado. After a report of an abhorrent smell on his property, authorities raided it and found 115 improperly stored, decomposing bodies. The CBI announced today that that number has actually risen. The number of individuals found is up to at least 189, and they said that number could increase. This man and his wife were selling grieving families fake ashes, allegedly. So why is this man not in jail yet? Can they not get him on anything?
These are actors with tragic pasts. Part 1. Tom Hardy is known for his roles as the main villain in multiple films like Venom. But before all this fame, he was constantly breaking the law. Tom got expelled from his boarding school and had issues with drinking and drugs. He also got arrested multiple times for stealing and gun possession, and finally went to rehab after he woke up drunk and covered in blood and puke. Next, Ben Affleck has had drinking problems that were well known since 2001. His drinking habits developed from an alcoholic father and his parents' divorce. Even after becoming a big Hollywood star, Affleck's history of hard partying and failed relationships hasn't changed. Before Mark Ruffalo became the Hulk for the MCU, he had a tough past. Half of his face was left paralyzed back in 2000 after surgery to remove a benign tumor. And in 2008, his brother was shot in his apartment. And the only key witness of the case lost his life from a drug overdose, leaving the case unresolved to this day. Finally, Paul Bettany's hit-or-miss movies almost made him give up on acting, until director Joss Whedon decided to cast him as Vision in Avengers Age of Ultron. But his history was worse. He lost his 8-year-old brother in a car crash when he was just 16. And to deal with the pain, Paul turned to drugs and alcohol.
This is one of the most wild true crime stories I have ever heard, and it seems like all of the news outside of TikTok is just ignoring it. So the three men you see behind me are named Ricky Johnson, David Harrington, and Clayton McGinney. And all three of them have two things in common. One of those things is this man, Jordan Willis, and the other thing is they were all found at Jordan Willis's house, no longer alive. You see, all three of these men went to their friend Jordan's house to watch the Kansas City Chiefs game, and then 3 days later, they were discovered still at Jordan's house, with all three of them no longer being alive. Now, if you thought that was weird, just wait, because it keeps getting weirder from here. Friends of the men allegedly called Jordan's house to try and get an answer and figure out where the men were, but nobody answered the phone. One of the friend's fiancés also apparently went to the house to knock and try and figure out where their fiancé was, but there was no answer, so the fiancé decided to break into the basement of the house and eventually discovered a body on the back porch of the house. Police were called shortly after this discovery, and they apparently discovered 2 more bodies in the backyard. And yes, it was these 3 men that were found deceased. Now, to make this even more wild, Jordan, who is still alive by the way, has not only not been charged with anything, but he's also apparently moving out of the house right now, as there was recently a U-Haul spotted in front of his house. According to police, there is no obvious signs of foul play, and investigators are still currently waiting for the medical examiner's report. Police are also apparently waiting on a search warrant so they can search Jordan's house. Now, according to the mother of David Harrington, who is one of the men that were found deceased, Jordan allegedly told the police that his friends froze and passed away, which is very odd for 3 people to just freeze outside of a house. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I'll be sure to update y'all and give more coverage to this story, since it seems like many news outlets are not wanting to cover it for whatever reason.
If you're rich, you can do whatever you want, like post bail after allegedly murdering 4 young women. This is 22-year-old Fraser Boehm of Malibu. On October 17th, he drove his 2016 red BMW to pick up tacos. On the way back, he claimed he was involved in a road rage incident, and that a car began chasing him and trying to run him off the road. Investigators have said that there is no evidence of this. Fraser is driving westbound on the PCH where the speed limit is 45 miles per hour, which is apparently about 3 miles away from where the road rage incident occurred. Prosecutors allege that Fraser hit speeds up to 104 miles per hour when he suddenly lost control of the vehicle on Dead Man's Curve and slammed into at least 3 vehicles parked on the side of the road shortly before 9 p.m. 4 Pepperdine students that were standing/walking in between these vehicles were instantly killed. 21-year-olds Asha Weir, Deslyn Williams, Peyton Stewart, and Neve Ralston. All 4 girls were seniors and sorority sisters at Pepperdine. Some witnesses claimed that Fraser immediately tried to flee the scene, and that he ultimately had to be tackled by Sigma Chi fraternity members who watched this fatal collision. Fraser was arrested and initially charged with vehicular manslaughter with gross negligence, but authorities released him the following day so that they could investigate further. Fraser was rearrested on Tuesday and charged with 4 counts of murder and 4 counts of gross vehicular manslaughter. The following day, he pleaded not guilty and his bond was set at $8 million. The judge reduced that bail to $4 million. This past Friday, Fraser was able to post that bail, which would be around $400,000 cash, and he's now free until the conclusion of his trial. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for December 15th.
This is by far the worst love triangle story I've ever heard of. In September of 2020, 31-year-old Armando Barone murdered his wife's co-worker when he found out that she was having an affair with him. 25-year-old Jonathan Emerald and 33-year-old Brittany Barone worked together at a biomedical device company in New Hampshire. But on this specific day, Armando went through Brittany's phone and lost it when he discovered text messages between Brittany and Jonathan. He beat Brittany so bad that she passed out, but it doesn't end there, and let me warn you, it gets really disturbing. That night, after Armando threatened to take Brittany's life, he took her phone and texted Jonathan pretending to be her. He then lured Jonathan to a park where he shot him 3 times and then drove 200 miles to a campsite where he forced Brittany to decapitate his body. Armando ordered Brittany to bury Jonathan's head in the dirt and told her that once the sun came up the next morning, he would forgive her. He then left Brittany in the wooded area so that she can get rid of evidence, and 2 days later, officers found Brittany at the campsite, and that's when she confessed that something had happened. Brittany was sentenced to 3.5 to 7 years in prison on 3 counts of falsifying evidence, but she has been released. And Armando was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
This is by far one of the bloodiest cartel videos ever explained. The video that I'm about to explain is 2 minutes and 48 seconds long, and it has gone viral on social media platforms recently. It's not confirmed where this clip took place, but it was definitely in South America. The video is shot in the middle of the night in a jungle location. As you play the video, you are met with the disturbing sight of the victim being held down by one of his captors. The victim appears to have taken a beating before the recording started, and his face is down on the ground. A cartel member is sitting on his back, almost straddling him, and he is pulling the victim's head up, exposing his throat. He is holding a new shiny machete to the victim's throat. Several other cartel members can be heard talking in the background. The cartel member holding the machete then pulls the victim's head up even further and starts slicing into his throat with the blade, and it's razor sharp. It cuts through his throat and ligaments like paper. Blood pours on the jungle ground, and the victim's grimaces of pain are nightmare-inducing, though he doesn't make a sound at all. Once the cartel member has slashed the victim's throat, he lets go of his hair and the victim's face drops into the ground. The victim is still alive, however, and lifts his head up with a look of shock and panic on his face. The cartel member then immediately strikes the victim on the back of the neck with the machete, and in just one hit, the blade appears to cut right through the spine, as you hear a loud cracking noise and the fact that the victim goes completely limp. The cartel member then strikes 2 to 3 more times with the machete, completely decapitating the victim. At this point, other cartel members can be seen in the video. They try to grab the severed head, but due to the blood, they cannot get a hold of it. Eventually, a member picks it up and holds the severed head up to the camera for a few seconds. The cartel member with the machete then resumes hacking away at the victim's corpse. He cuts off the victim's right forearm in a matter of seconds. He then cuts off the other arm and holds it up to the camera. He is dismembering the corpse extremely quickly. He then cuts the victim's legs off at the knees, though this takes longer than the beheading and the dismemberment of the arms, though he is still doing it in an extremely quick manner. Every time he cuts off a limb, he throws it into a pile where he threw the other limbs and the severed head. It's literally a scene straight from a horror movie. He then cuts both legs off and then appears to start cutting the victim's chest open. But this is where the video concludes. In all the videos I covered, I'd never seen such a sharp machete being used. It was cutting through the victim's body so quick. This video is extremely bloody and gruesome, and certainly isn't something you should go searching for. It's crazy to me that such cruel acts like this happen daily, and there's honestly nothing we can do about it. Or there is, and the world just chooses not to. But nonetheless, whatever you do, don't go searching for this video. It really isn't worth it.
In my 35 years of law enforcement, I've never seen anything like this. If I could describe it, it'd be something you see out of a horror movie. Always known how to catch a fish or two, but when it came to this case, things were very tough. I mean, even talking about it right now, it raised the hair right on the back of my neck. It definitely does stick with you. I don't try to get too emotionally involved in these cases. I'm gonna need a minute.
Have anyone else been following the case of the 4-year-old boy named Phoenix who went missing January 12th and then was found a few days later? From what I can find, he went missing in Alabama on Friday and then was found on Sunday, so that's 2 days he was gone. From what I can find, the boy, his mother, and another person were in a camper, and then the mother got up at some point during the night to use the bathroom in her grandmother's house, which I guess was close to the camper, and when she came back, the boy was gone. And first and foremost, I am so happy that this had a happy ending and that he was found safe. That is what is most important. I am just going to be honest, his feet and his clothes look very, very clean for him being missing for 2 days. From what I could find, he did not have shoes. People from the area said that it was very rainy and cold while he was missing. This is a comment from an EMT. I'm going to let you pause to read it if you want, but she said she has pulled a grown man fully clothed out of the woods after less than a few hours, and he was severely hypothermic and showed obvious signs of distress. This 4-year-old has been kept somewhere dry and warm. If he is autistic and has been cold, alone, and in an unfamiliar place for 72 hours, he would be in severe distress. Something seems a little off here. Even news stations are pointing out what great condition he was found in for a child that was alone in the woods for 2 or 3 days. I'm just gonna say it. Compare that baby's case to that of Riker Webb in 2022. Riker survived the Montana wilderness for 2 days by hiding in a shed. Look at that poor baby's face. That is what I guess I would expect to see for a child that has been traumatized alone in the woods for that long. Something just seems a little off to me, but we'll see how it unfolds.
This girl waved at the cop every day, and the day she doesn't, his gut tells him to check her house, and you won't believe what happens, part 2. So he had a terrible gut feeling that something was wrong, so after he made his way inside the house, he found her on the floor, pale and shivering. He realized she was very sick and immediately called an ambulance. At the hospital, she was diagnosed with severe malnourishment. According to the doctors, he saved her life by finding her because she wouldn't have lasted another day without treatment. As the years passed, she moved out of the area, but she never forgot what he did. Even though 20 years passed, she decided she wanted to thank him in person. When she called, he immediately knew who it was. He often wondered what happened to her. She then finally became a police officer. And if you guys want to watch my videos all in one part, I post longer videos on my YouTube channel. Just click this link in my bio. Just subscribe, turn notifications on, comment when done, and I'll follow back the first 1,000 people to do it.